Additionally, Harley-Davidson and our strategic partner Kimco will each be making a $100 million investment into LiveWire by merging the business with AEA Bridges and listing on the New York Stock Exchange.
Harley-Davidson CEO Jochen Zeitz just responded to the company's downfall after going woke. The veteran executive stepped back into the spotlight as Harley-Davidson's sales momentum faltered under the weight of its recently adopted diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. As complaints from dealers escalated and social media campaigns targeted the brand's perceived cultural shift, Zeitz chose to confront the mounting criticism head-on. He embarked on a series of conversations with stakeholders and publicly acknowledged the brand's historic connection to its core riders, framing his remarks around Harley's commitment to biking culture even as he defended elements of the company's evolving identity. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. When dealers began to voice concerns about unsold inventories, shrinking margins, and the company's strategic pivot toward DEI programs, Zeitz recognized that Harley's revival depended on rebuilding trust within its traditional base. In May, he personally visited key dealerships across the Midwest and South, listening to franchise owners explain how mandatory marketing funds and new sales targets had eroded their profitability. Those sessions gave Zeitz first-hand insight into the tension between Harley-Davidson's drive to modernize and the realities of its customers' bottom lines. His response included a commitment to adjust shipment volumes to better align with actual dealer demand and to recalibrate marketing support, measures intended to shore up dealer confidence while preserving the broader transformation strategy. Although Zeitz had previously lauded DEI initiatives as vital to attracting diverse talent and reflecting Harley's aspirational values, he now framed the company's evolving policies as complementary rather than central to its core mission. Addressing criticisms on social media and in trade publications, he reaffirmed Harley-Davidson's focus on growing the sport of motorcycling and retaining our loyal riding community, a tagline harking back to the company's heritage. By emphasizing support for first responders, active military members, and veterans demographics that have long identified with the Harley brand, Zeitz sought to underscore that cultural inclusivity and allegiance to traditional riders need not be mutually exclusive. Behind the scenes, Zeitz convened an internal task force charged with reviewing the company's DEI functions. Although Harley-Davidson officially discontinued its DEI team in April 2024, the broader question of how to maintain diversity efforts without alienating core customers persisted. Zeitz's task force examined the interplay between supplier diversity goals and profit targets, ultimately recommending that any future inclusion efforts be tightly linked to demonstrable business outcomes, improvements in recruitment, retention, and operational efficiency rather than standalone social mandates. His message to employees stressed that Harley's turnaround strategy would integrate DEI under the banner of performance, a reframing intended to neutralize the DEI debate and refocus the organization on financial results. Publicly, Zeitz's most notable move was a company-wide address streamed to employees and dealers alike, where he candidly acknowledged that Harley-Davidson's sales growth had not kept pace with competitors in the touring and cruiser segments. He conceded that the implementation of Hardwire, the strategic plan he championed in 2021 to transform Harley into a premium motorcycle marque, had encountered headwinds in its third year, with some high-margin models failing to gain traction among price-sensitive consumers. Zeitz promised mid-course corrections, leveraging insights from both US and European markets to fine-tune product mix, pricing strategies, and dealer incentives. His tone combined a sense of urgency with guarded optimism, suggesting that while recent performance fell short of expectations, Harley's long-term positioning remained sound. Industry analysts interpreted Zeitz's response as a bid to balance accountability with continuity. By directly engaging dealers and admitting strategic missteps, he undercut critics who accused him of disregarding Harley's traditional ethos. Yet Zeitz stopped short of abandoning the brand's modernization efforts. He reiterated commitments to electrification through LiveWire, the electric motorcycle subsidiary he spun off, and to sustainability goals that had drawn scrutiny for their ambition. This dual narrative of recommitment to legacy customers alongside cautious innovation reflected Zeitz's belief that Harley's future depended on attracting new riders without forsaking its past. The CEO's response also carried significant implications for shareholder confidence. In April 2025, Zeitz announced his intent to retire later in the year after a 5-year tenure marked by both turnarounds and turmoil. His acknowledgement of the company's underperformance came as proxy battles loomed, with activist investors questioning Harley's strategic direction and board decisions. Zeitz's candid engagement with dealers and employees was seen by some investors as an attempt to solidify his legacy and ensure a smoother handoff to his intended successor, CFO Jonathan Root. By taking ownership of recent setbacks, he aimed to neutralize shareholder outrage and retain board support for his final months in office. Beyond the balance sheets and boardroom skirmishes, Zeitz's response signaled a broader debate within corporate America over the integration of social initiatives into core business. Harley-Davidson's experience illustrated the risks companies face when ambitious DEI or sustainability agendas collide with entrenched customer expectations. Zeitz's public pivot to emphasize performance metrics over mission statements reflected a pragmatic view that social values must deliver tangible returns or risk being perceived as distractions. His stance underscored a growing corporate calculus in which CEOs must navigate politicized consumer landscapes while sustaining profitability. Zeitz's handling of Harley-Davidson's downturn after the woke backlash offers lessons for brand stewards in polarized markets. By coupling transparency with tangible corrective actions, loaning marketing dollars, adjusting inventory, reframing DEI as a performance lever, he sought to rebuild trust without retreating entirely from the social ideals he championed. His nuanced response recognized that companies of Harley's scale cannot simply abandon identity-driven initiatives. Instead, they must tether them to financial imperatives and stakeholder dialogues. Zeitz's strategy demonstrated that in times of crisis, leaders who own missteps and articulate clear, dual-pronged plans can steer organizations through cultural storms while preserving long-term vision. As the reverberations of disillusionment swept across Harley-Davidson's loyal following, Jochen Zeitz found himself at a crossroads between visionary ambition and the gritty reality of a brand that once defined the open road. What began as a bold initiative to broaden Harley's appeal into uncharted demographics gradually collided with the unspoken covenant between the manufacturer and its devoted riders: authenticity above all. Zeitz's decisive engagement with this delicate tension marked the beginning of an intense period of introspection, not only for himself, but for every echelon of the company's structure. Drawing clear-eyed lessons from the initial missteps, Zeitz turned his attention to the silent undercurrents shaping customer sentiment. He recognized that while a segment of prospective riders welcomed a more inclusive image, another segment perceived it as an abandonment of cherished traditions. With this in mind, Zeitz convened a series of focus groups that cut across age, geography, and riding style. From the sun-baked highways of California to the misty roads of the Pacific Northwest, he sought testimony from Generation Xers, Boomers, and the nascent cohort of younger motorcyclists enticed by the prospect of electric power. What emerged from these dialogues was a mosaic of aspirations. Some riders craved unvarnished power and chrome. Others sought a sense of community and shared values. By distilling these insights, Zeitz aimed to inform a nuanced marketing strategy that could speak simultaneously to heritage purists and the emergent crowd eager for innovation. While qualitative feedback illuminated emotional drivers, Zeitz understood the necessity of hard data. He commissioned an in-depth analysis of purchasing behaviors, examining everything from financing patterns to aftermarket accessory trends. The analysis turned up intriguing signals. Buyers of flagship touring bikes maintained steady loyalty, while sales of mid-tier models showed volatility tied to shifts in brand messaging. Furthermore, accessory revenues, often a barometer of owner engagement, had dipped notably among long-term owners who once saw Harley peaks as an extension of their personal identity. Confronted with these metrics, Zeitz authorized targeted promotions aimed at re-engaging dormant owners, pairing limited edition paint schemes with experiential events that celebrated the tactile joys of riding. Parallel to this data-driven approach, Zeitz also addressed the internal culture that had begun to mirror external contradictions. Morale among product development teams had flagged as DEI mandates redirected resources and reshaped internal priorities. Recognizing that innovation thrives on psychological safety, Zeitz championed a renewed emphasis on cross-functional collaboration. He dissolved silos between marketing, engineering, and dealer support, instituting regular ride-and-review sessions in which teams literally took prototypes onto the road, observing firsthand how a design felt and sounded. By anchoring development in the visceral experience of motorcycling, Zeitz rekindled a sense of shared purpose and connected employees to the soul of the brand. On the production front, supply chain disruptions already strained by global logistical challenges were exacerbated by shifting inventory demands. Zeitz worked closely with operations executives to introduce greater flexibility into manufacturing schedules. Instead of rigid quarterly targets, the plant floor adopted a dynamic planning model that could pivot toward high-demand models at short notice. This move not only eased dealer frustrations over mismatched shipments, but also signaled to investors that Harley-Davidson was capable of agile execution. Simultaneously, Zeitz explored the potential for small batch runs of limited edition bikes, leveraging scarcity and exclusivity to stoke enthusiasm among collectors and cultural influencers. Marketing, too, underwent a transformation under Zeitz's direction. Rather than blanket campaigns proclaiming a new era of inclusivity, the brand adopted a mosaic approach, showcasing a range of riders in their authentic environments. Films and social media snippets featured veterans bonding on group rides, artisans customizing choppers in urban garages, and budding entrepreneurs launching mobile cafes from their electric Harleys. These vignettes did not overtly preach diversity, but instead celebrated the unifying thrill of two wheels against the wind. In doing so, Zeitz aligned messaging with the underlying research he had gathered. Customers responded most strongly when they saw their own stories reflected, rather than abstract corporate mantras. International markets offered another frontier for recalibration. In Asia and Latin America, Harley-Davidson had made inroads by tapping into emerging middle-class aspirations. Yet the global rollout of DEI-centric pronouncements sometimes felt tone-deaf in regions where cultural dynamics differ substantially. Zeitz commissioned local market teams to craft bespoke campaigns that honored regional traditions, such as supporting community festivals in Brazil or partnering with heritage motorcycle clubs in India while still conveying the essence of Harley's spirit. This decentralized approach acknowledged that a one-size-fits-all model could backfire on the world stage, and it reinforced the principle that cultural authenticity demands local sensitivity. At the investor relations level, Zeitz intensified transparent reporting. Rather than masking shortfalls behind optimistic forecasts, the leadership team issued monthly performance updates, complete with clear explanations for variances and concrete corrective actions. These communications built credibility among Wall Street analysts who had grown weary of mixed messages. Zeitz personally participated in quarterly calls, not to deliver rehearsed sound bites, but to engage in candid dialogue about strategic pivots. This newfound openness helped reset expectations and underscored Zeitz's confidence in the adjusted path forward. Meanwhile, the company's legacy foundation programs, once perceived as peripheral, found renewed life under Zeitz's stewardship. Initiatives that supported first responders and veterans were reinvigorated through community rides, scholarship funds, and equipment donations. Although these efforts did not dominate press releases, they resonated deeply with the brand's core constituency. Riders who attended foundation-sponsored events reported a rejuvenated sense of loyalty, translating into upticks in accessory purchases and referrals. Zeitz's decision to amplify these grassroots relationships demonstrated an understanding that loyalty is often forged in moments of authentic connection, not broad corporate essays. Zeitz also turned a critical eye to digital engagement. Harley-Davidson's website and mobile platforms, despite featuring cutting-edge visuals, had lagged in fostering interactive communities. Under his directive, a new portal launched that allowed owners to share ride routes, customize avatars, and earn badges for participation. Far from being a superficial gamification ploy, the platform offered a venue for riders to plan group trips, post maintenance tips, and organize charity events. Early metrics showed a 40% increase in repeat visits and a significant rise in accessory cross-sells linked to platform referrals. By marrying digital connectivity with the tactile pleasure of riding, Zeitz illustrated how modern technologies can reinforce old-school camaraderie. As these multifaceted measures rolled out, Zeitz remained conscious of the delicate equilibrium between baking in long-term transformation and delivering near-term stability. He maintained a lean governance structure that empowered regional presidents and dealer councils to implement adaptations swiftly while preserving a coherent global strategy. This balance of autonomy and alignment became a hallmark of his leadership, reflecting an appreciation that resilience in the face of cultural headwinds requires organizational dexterity as much as moral clarity. Education and training programs for dealership staff also saw a strategic overhaul. Instead of one-off workshops on inclusion or sales tactics, the curriculum evolved into a modular system that blended storytelling techniques, product knowledge, and customer psychology. Staff learned to recognize diverse customer profiles, whether a retiree seeking a classic cruiser or a young professional drawn to zero-emission rides, and to tailor their approach accordingly. By equipping frontline personnel with both empathy and expertise, Zeitz fortified the brand's human interface, mitigating misunderstandings that had previously fueled social media backlash. Throughout this period of recalibration, Zeitz's personal philosophy guided the enterprise: deeply honor the heritage that built the brand while fearlessly charting new territory. He often cited the metaphor of a seasoned rider who navigates corners by leaning into them rather than resisting the centrifugal force. For Harley-Davidson, leaning meant embracing the inevitability of cultural evolution without discarding the company's raison d'etre. Under his watch, committees on sustainability, electrification, and community outreach reported directly to the CEO's office, ensuring that progressive initiatives aligned with the core directive to keep the throttle open on profitability and passion. Industry observers noted that Zeitz's methodology straddled a rare middle ground. Some competitors opted for abrupt rebrands that risked alienating older customers. Others clung too tightly to nostalgia, missing opportunities for expansion. In contrast, Zeitz's incremental but comprehensive adjustments cultivated a sense of continuity amid change. Dealerships that had once threatened to sever ties began to tentatively restore promotional commitments. Ride clubs that threatened boycotts gradually returned to sponsored tours. While full recovery would take time, the reknit of fractured relationships signaled that Zeitz's approach was yielding traction. Perhaps the most revealing test came during the first major rally season following the initial downturn. At prominent events in Sturgis and Daytona, Harley hosted gatherings incorporated both traditional lineups of open-piped V-twins and showcases of the latest electric prototypes. Attendance figures recovered to near pre-crisis levels, and visitor surveys indicated a balanced mix of longtime enthusiasts and curious newcomers. Traditional gear vendors reported robust sales alongside merchants catering to eco-conscious buyers. These rallies, in essence, became living laboratories for Zeitz's philosophy, the high-octane roar of combustion engines and the whisper of electric motors coexisting within the same ecosystem. Yet as Harley-Davidson edged back toward equilibrium, Zeitz understood that vigilance remained essential. The cultural currents that had triggered the crisis had not vanished, they had only subsided. To guard against future dislocations, he institutionalized regular health checks on brand sentiment, supplier diversity, and dealer satisfaction, each monitored through a dashboard that linked qualitative anecdotes with quantitative metrics. Early warning flags now prompted immediate cross-functional huddles, rather than quarterly board debates. In effect, Zeitz reshaped Harley-Davidson's organizational reflexes to detect and respond to shifts before they metastasized into crises. Through this sustained effort, the contours of a revitalized Harley-Davidson began to emerge. It was a company that reverenced its legacy while navigating modern currents with poise. One where the roar of a classic Fat Boy and the silence of a LiveWire could both be celebrated as chapters in a continuing saga. And behind it all stood a CEO who refused to view DEI, sustainability, or electrification as checkboxes, but rather as instrumental forces that, if harnessed judiciously, could power the brand's vitality for decades to come. In exercising the specter of the woke downturn, Jochen Zeitz demonstrated that corporate revival demands more than rhetorical pivots. It requires immersive listening, rigorous analysis, cultural empathy, and unwavering commitment to strategic cohesion. His journey through Harley-Davidson's turbulence offers a blueprint for any legacy brand confronting the collision of tradition with change. By steering thoughtfully between extremes, Zeitz showed that a venerable organization need not choose between honoring its heritage and embracing the future it can. With deliberate leadership, do both, carving out a path that resonates across generations and powers the engines of progress without losing sight of the open road that beckoned from the very beginning. As the tide of Harley-Davidson's renaissance gathered strength under Jochen Zeitz's stewardship, another critical front emerged: partnerships and collaborations that could amplify the brand's relevance without diluting its essence. Zeitz reached beyond Harley's traditional supplier network to engage with artisans, technologists, and cultural icons whose work resonated with the spirit of the open road. He enlisted boutique leatherworkers to co-develop limited edition saddlebags featuring novel materials and patterns. He partnered with an independent audio firm to engineer a compact Bluetooth speaker that rode seamlessly under the sissy bar, marrying nostalgia for open-face helmets with modern connectivity. These alliances allowed Harley-Davidson to tap into subculture's urban creatives, vintage customizers, audiophiles while reinforcing its position as an ecosystem rather than merely a manufacturer. At the same time, Zeitz pushed the engineering team to explore modular platform designs that could be shared across combustion and electric lines. Instead of developing fully separate chassis for each powertrain, Harley engineers conceived a unified frame architecture with interchangeable power modules. This approach, inspired by practices in the automotive sector, promised to lower development costs, accelerate model rollouts, and offer riders the freedom to transition from gas to electric with minimal aesthetic and ergonomic compromises. By aligning electrical architecture, battery placement, and suspension setups within a common structural envelope, Zeitz aimed to future-proof Harley's lineup while preserving the muscular silhouette that riders revered. Meanwhile, Zeitz recognized that the next generation of riders would not only seek thrilling performance but also crave immersive experiences. To that end, he greenlit a studio within Harley-Davidson devoted to virtual and augmented reality simulations. Potential buyers could don VR headsets in the dealership showroom and feel the rush of a virtual Tale of the Dragon or the Monument Valley Byway, with realistic engine acoustics and wind effects in their headphones. Integrating these virtual test rides into the sales process accelerated decision-making for tech-savvy prospects and offered seasoned veterans a preview of routes they had yet to conquer. The initiative signaled that Harley-Davidson saw technology not as a threat to heritage, but as a vessel for recreating it under new lights. Beyond product and experience, Zeitz turned a scrutinizing eye to the brand's financial architecture. He undertook a revitalization of Harley's debt profile, orchestrating a bond refinancing that extended maturities and reduced interest obligations in a market that still regarded the company's leverage with caution. By renegotiating covenants and securing more flexible credit lines, Zeitz freed capital that had been hobbled by restrictive terms. He then earmarked a portion of that liquidity to underwrite community-oriented grant programs. Small rural towns that hosted annual charity rides could apply for funds to upgrade local facilities, a park pavilion, a clinic waiting room, or a veterans memorial. And in return, Harley obtained community goodwill and brand visibility in markets that seldom saw full-blown corporate sponsorships. Amid these strategic plays, Zeitz remained keenly aware that Harley-Davidson could not thrive on products and partnerships alone. It needed fresh creative narratives. He commissioned a series of short documentary films that traced riders' personal odysseys, an industrial designer who quit his job to launch a mobile coffee roaster on a trike, a nonprofit founder who used his motorcycle to deliver medical supplies in remote areas, a family that welded a custom three-wheeled sidecar to transport their service dog. These films toured festivals and streamed on social platforms, accumulating millions of impressions. Zeitz viewed storytelling as a force multiplier. By spotlighting real-world applications of Harley's machines and values, the brand's marketing took on the aura of lived authenticity rather than polished advertisement. Internally, Zeitz sought to embed this narrative discipline within Harley's talent pipeline. He inaugurated an incubator program that invited employees' children, many of whom belonged to Generation Z, to conceive concepts for the next generation of Harley experiences. Teams of young aspiring marketers, designers, and technologists were given workshops in brand history, user research, and rapid prototyping. A highlight of the program was the HD Hackathon, where cross-departmental squads developed ideas ranging from subscription-based ride services for city dwellers to AI-enhanced gear-shifting algorithms. While not all proposals made it to production, the initiative invigorated staff morale, attracted external media attention, and seeded a culture of experimentation that permeated the wider organization. On the competitive front, Zeitz recalibrated Harley's positioning not just against other heavyweight cruisers, but against emerging lifestyle competitors, electric bike startups, leisure vehicle makers, adventure tour operators, He instructed the strategy team to map every rider touchpoint and assess where a rival could intercept Harley's customers. The analysis revealed that some enthusiasts were being wooed by premium bicycle brands offering e-assist for urban commutes. Others were drawn to motorcycle clubs organizing curated expeditions. In response, Harley formed a dedicated Lifestyle Ventures subsidiary tasked with forging alliances and even minority investments in promising niche businesses. This fellowship of micro brands, from bespoke helmet ateliers to mobile cooking trailers, extended the Harley-Davidson badge into new contexts, generating ancillary revenue and reinforcing loyalty through a network effect. In parallel, Zeitz tackled perceptions around ownership models. A segment of urban professionals coveted the Harley badge, but balked at the full commitment of outright purchase. To capture this audience, Zeitz pioneered a membership subscription that combined flexible leasing, maintenance coverage, and ride credits for curated events. Subscribers could swap between models, testing a stripped-back Street Bob one month and a LiveWire that could scale from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds, the next while retaining the sense of belonging to the Harley community. The program circumvented objections about depreciation and insurance, and it dovetailed with subscription trends sweeping industries from software to wellness. Governance and board dynamics also featured in Zeitz's playbook. Having experienced firsthand how misalignment between executive action and board oversight could stymie agility, he championed the creation of a board advisory council comprised of independent writers, past dealers, and cultural commentators. This council convened quarterly to review strategic initiatives, press marketing drafts, and flag potential flashpoints before campaigns went live. Their feedback loop reduced the risk of tone-deaf messaging and shortened approval cycles. More importantly, the existence of the council signaled to all stakeholders that Harley-Davidson was institutionalizing stakeholder-centric governance rather than treating community input as an afterthought. As the layers of Zeitz's response unfolded, so too did a transformation in Harley's risk management posture. Recognizing that brand crises often sprout from narrow but lethal missteps, the company invested in real-time social listening platforms powered by AI. These systems parsed online chatter for emerging narratives, positive or negative, enabling rapid response teams to intervene with factual clarifications, targeted advertisements, or grassroots support events. The deployment of these tools reflected Zeitz's conviction that reputation risk deserved the same level of underwriting and modeling as product liability or supply chain exposure. In the final analysis, Jochen Zeitz's far-reaching strategies illustrated a profound lesson. A storied brand's revival is neither a return to glory days nor a headlong dash into the unknown, but rather an orchestration of both. Through selective collaborations, platform rationalization, immersive experiences, financial restructuring, and governance innovation, Zeitz wove a tapestry that honored Harley-Davidson's heritage while threading in new fibers of growth. His willingness to experiment, whether through VR test rides or subscription models, demonstrated that evolution need not betray identity. And as the company's balance sheet began to mirror improved dealer sentiment and customer engagement, Zeitz reminded the motorcycling world that the open road is less a destination than a journey, one that Harley-Davidson would continue to define through the ingenuity, passion, and resilience he helped revive. In tandem with these strategic advances, Zeitz also turned his attention to Harley-Davidson's environmental footprint, commissioning a cradle-to-grave analysis of the company's manufacturing processes. The study revealed opportunities to reduce waste through recycled alloys and to reclaim machining byproducts for use in accessory production. He greenlit a pilot program at the York plant to power one assembly line entirely with on-site solar energy, aiming to scale similar installations globally. By integrating sustainability into the heart of production rather than treating it as a sidebar initiative, Zeitz underscored that ecological responsibility could coexist with industrial prowess. Finally, mindful of the transformative power of shared experiences, Zeitz inaugurated an annual Road Heritage Festival at Harley's home headquarters, blending music, art installations, and dynamic ride-in exhibitions. The festival partnered with local cultural organizations, inviting painters, dancers, and storytellers to interpret what the open road meant in diverse contexts. This celebration not only reinforced the motorcycle as a vessel for personal narrative, but also positioned Harley-Davidson as a patron of the arts, weaving the brand more deeply into the cultural fabric. In these ways, Zeitz's multifaceted response transcended product fixes, embedding Harley-Davidson within a broader tapestry of innovation, community, and environmental stewardship. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Harley-Davidson's downfall? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.